One of my objectives in this class is to teach you what's really going on, not just what's in the textbook, which is sort of a sterile view of HR and an idealistic view of HR. But HR is a hard thing to do, and it's hard to get it right, and it's hard to know what to do. And so this is, in performance management system, the reality of HR and the theory of HR really come to a head. And so in the next few minutes, I want to talk about that because I'm sorry, I'm unable to make it to class tonight. I'm in New England dealing with some ailing parents right now, and it's a little bit of a hard thing. Performance management is something that I'm sure you've had experience with, because if you've had a job, you've been performance managed. If you've had a class, you've been performance managed. And for me, I'm rather dubious about the subjective ability of a professor to grade. I think I have a really good sense of things. I think I've experienced. I think I know how to do it fairly well. But I also get students who surprise me all the time. I get A students who go off and have pretty mediocre careers, and I get these C+ students that go off and do incredible things, and you realize in the end your ability to grade and assess somebody is pretty limited. In a performance management system, there's an expectation of how somebody will perform, and that's sort of right here. And then there's their performance, and there's a gap between them sometimes, and that's the performance gap. And so that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for that gap, that performance gap. Well, guess what? What if it's like that? What if they actually do perform exactly the way you want them to? In fact, they're better than you want them to. There's nothing in the system, built into the system, that where you go exceeds expectations in all areas. You see, the logic of it is this. First of all, logic one: I can know exactly what I want you to do. I know that. I write it in a job description, right? I write it in a daily plan. No. You can't know that. Because the good employee is going to continually change and adapt their job to their customers' needs, and you cannot fully anticipate that. But if you can fully anticipate it, then you can establish that norm. The other thing it requires, piece of logic there is that I can fairly assess exactly where you are. So both of those things have to be in place for a performance management system to really work. And it's very hard to put them in place, almost impossible to put them in place. That's the logic of it. So it's always awkward. It's really always awkward when you go into that boss and have that conversation. It's worse for the boss than it is for you, because I've been at that boss side of things. I've had to have those discussions. And you don't know. I mean, you just don't know what your employee is dealing with. And then the presumption, after those two things maybe are in place, the presumption is, whose responsibility is it to fill in that gap? And is it the employees? Is it the management, or is it both? It should be everyone's responsibility to do that. What if I'm asking you to do something that's just plain unrealistic for you to do, that I haven't given you the tools to do, that you don't have the know-how to do? How responsible am I as the manager there to give you those opportunities, to give you those skills, to give you those abilities, to teach you, to get you that training to be able to do the job that way? Or am I better off, am I to get somebody else to reassign to do something better that way? So my idea on this all is, I have not found a performance management system that I know of, that I've been able to see yet, that I think really delivers on the promise of performance improvement, which is the goal. I haven't seen one yet, and I haven't found one yet. I haven't seen one yet. I haven't seen a process yet that meets the standards of motivating employees to exceed expectations. And I think in the end, that's what you really want. Now, it depends on the enterprise, right? Some enterprises, it's really clear we need to make a certain number of widgets in a certain way every day. That's pretty clear. But a lot of work these days, it's just not clear what that mark should be. So the better way to do it, in my view, is to have an ongoing conversation, to not make this an annual event or a quarterly event, to not manage it as a system, but to build a solid relationship with your employees, to talk continually daily, to do after action reviews, to work closely with them so that you know what's going on, what's frustrating them, what's making things good, what they're doing when they're working outside the box and doing well, when they're working outside the box and being distracted. All of those things, if you follow them and know that in real time, it's much better than if you try to do that through a system that is done at certain time intervals that way. That's sort of my view of it, and I hope that's helpful. Again, I'm sorry about not making it to class today. This is maybe a 5-minute lecture that's saving us a couple of hours, but next week we will jump right back into things, and we'll be talking next week about globalization and some of the globalization issues. By the way, when you talk about performance management systems and culture together, it's really an interesting conversation because the way you give feedback in different cultures, we're pretty blunt and pretty direct in a U.S. culture, and we have that sense that the rules will protect us if we're a good employee in this culture. But in a collectivist culture, it's pretty hard to have a performance management system that's not network-based and seen as favoritism. So we'll talk a little bit about that next week as we get into the culture issues. Again, sorry about this week. Take care, my friends.